Ever wondered what to say in English when you make a mistake at work and you want to keep things casual?
Today, we are going to look at simple ways to handle those little slips without sounding like a textbook or getting too formal.
It happens to the best of us, whether we forget to send an email or miss a small detail.
Exactly. And you don't always need to say, "I apologize for this error," like a robot.
Most people just use quick phrases to keep the conversation moving smoothly.
It makes everything feel less heavy when you can just acknowledge it and move on.
Imagine you're just chatting with a friend and want to fix a tiny misunderstanding.
That's the vibe we're going for. Natural, easy, and very relatable.
Let's practice a few quick ones together right now to get started.
I'll say something, then you can try repeating it back to me.
My bad. I totally missed that note you sent earlier.
That's a great one for small stuff that doesn't really break anything.
How about, whoops, forgot to attach that file. Here it is.
Perfect for when you're just sending a quick follow-up message.
It shows you're human and you caught the slip up yourself.
Let's try. No worries. I'll fix that right away for you.
That is super common and sounds very helpful at the same time.
Sometimes we just need to admit we were a bit distracted.
Let's say, sorry, I must have had a brain fog moment there.
When you're dealing with something slightly bigger than just a forgotten attachment, you might need a bit more substance in your response. Instead of just a quick sorry, you can explain that you understand the impact, but keep it lighthearted. For example, if you missed a deadline by an hour, you could say something like, "I'm so sorry about the delay. I got sidetracked with another task, but I'm on it now." This shows you're taking responsibility without sounding like you're reading from a legal document or a corporate handbook.
I really like the balance of being honest but professional in a casual way because it builds trust with your team. If you try to hide it or use too much jargon, people can tell you're nervous or trying too hard. Just saying, "I totally dropped the ball on that one. Let me make it right," is such a refreshing thing to hear. It sounds like something a real person would say to a neighbor or a friend while they're working on a project together over the weekend.
That phrase, "dropped the ball," is a classic one that fits perfectly in many situations where a mistake was made. It implies you had the responsibility, but just let it slip. And everyone understands that feeling. You can follow that up with a quick solution-oriented sentence so the person you're talking to knows what's happening next. For instance, you could say, "I dropped the ball on the schedule, but I've already updated the calendar to reflect the changes for the next few days."
Practice makes this feel much more natural, so let's try a few variations of these longer explanations together. Imagine you gave someone the wrong information about a meeting time or a specific project detail. You might say, "Sorry, I gave you the wrong info earlier. I must have been looking at an old version of the document. Let me get you the correct details right now so we are both on the same page moving forward."
That's a really good one because it acknowledges the mistake and provides the why without sounding like a long excuse. Using phrases like, "we are both on the same page," is great for casual workplace communication because it focuses on the partnership. It shows that even though a mistake happened, the goal is still to work together successfully. It's all about keeping the flow going and making sure nobody feels stressed out about a tiny error. that can be easily fixed.
Another situation that happens often is when you accidentally talk over someone or interrupt them during a discussion. Even if it's just a small mistake in social etiquette, it's nice to have a quick way to handle it naturally. You could say, "Oh, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there. Please keep going with what you were saying." It shows you're attentive and respectful of their time and their voice in the conversation without being overly apologetic.
I find that in those moments, just a quick smile and a brief acknowledgement goes such a long way in making people feel comfortable. If you make a mistake and you're too hard on yourself, it can actually make the other person feel awkward too. By keeping it casual and light, you're signaling to everyone else that it's okay to make mistakes and that it's easy to move forward. It creates a much better environment for everyone to just do their best work without fear of being perfect all the time.
That is so true. And it applies to things like misunderstanding a question or a request as well. If someone asks for something and you provide the wrong thing, you don't need to feel embarrassed about it. Just say, "My mistake. I thought you meant the other report. Give me a second to grab the right one for you." This kind of response is direct, clear, and doesn't waste time on unnecessary apologies that can slow down the day.
Let's try a practice line for that specific scenario, because it's one that listeners will probably encounter pretty often. Repeat after me. "Sorry about that. I misread your message. Let me get you exactly what you need." It's simple, it's effective, and it's something you can say with a friendly tone to show you're eager to help. Repeating these phrases out loud really helps with the muscle memory, so they just pop out when you actually need them in a real situation.
One thing I've noticed is that people tend to appreciate when you own up to a mistake quickly, rather than letting it linger. If you notice you did something wrong, just bringing it up yourself can solve the problem before it even becomes a real issue. You could say, "Hey, I just noticed a typo in that last message I sent. Here's the correct version for you." It shows you're proactive and you're paying attention to the details, even after the work is supposedly finished for the moment.
Actually, I've noticed that even in very successful teams, the best communicators are those who aren't afraid to say they messed up. It makes the whole team feel more like a group of humans rather than a bunch of machines. If you can say, "Man, I really overcomplicated that process. Let's try it this way instead," you're showing great leadership skills. It invites others to share their own ideas and feel safe when things don't go exactly as planned the first time around.
That's a powerful way to frame it, and it really shifts the focus from the mistake to the solution. Another good phrase to have in your back pocket is, "I missed the mark on that one. Let's pivot and try another approach." It's casual, but it shows that you're still very focused on achieving the goal. This kind of language is perfect for when a strategy didn't work out or a project didn't get the results you were hoping for.
Let's do a practice round for that pivot phrase because it's such a handy one for collaborative work. Say it with me. "I definitely missed the mark there. Let's try a different way to get this done." Notice how the voice stays calm and steady, which helps keep the mood positive for everyone involved. It's not about sounding defeated. It's about being ready to take the next step with more information than you had before.
We should also talk about how to handle it when you forget someone's name or a piece of personal information they shared. Even though it's not a technical work mistake, it's a social mistake that happens at work all the time. Instead of feeling mortified, you can just say, "I'm so sorry, your name just slipped my mind for a second. Could you remind me?" Usually people are very understanding, because it has happened to every single person at some point in their life.
Oh, I've been there so many times, and being direct is always the best way to handle that particular slip-up. People usually prefer it when you're honest, rather than trying to guess or avoid using their name altogether. You can just say, "I'm having a total blank right now. Could you tell me your name again?" It's much better than calling someone the wrong name, which can be a bit more awkward to recover from in the long run.
The same goes for when you forget a specific instruction or a detail about a task you were supposed to complete. You might feel like you should have remembered, but it's always better to double-check than to do the whole thing wrong. You can say, "Sorry, I didn't catch the last part of what you said. Could you go over it one more time?" It shows you care about getting it right, and you're not just nodding along without actually understanding the requirements.
I love that because it focuses on clarity and getting the job done correctly the first time. It's a sign of a good communicator to ask for clarification when a mistake in understanding has happened. Let's try a call and response for that one. "My apologies. Could you repeat that last bit? I want to make sure I have everything exactly right." That sounds both professional in a casual setting and very committed to doing a great job for the team.
It also helps to have phrases for when you accidentally send an email to the wrong person, which is a classic work mistake. If that happens, a quick follow-up is essential to minimize any confusion or privacy concerns. You could write or say, "Whoops, that email wasn't meant for you. Please ignore it, and I'll send it to the right person." Keep it short and move on immediately so you don't make a big deal out of a simple mistake that stays small.
I think a lot of people get paralyzed by the fear of making these mistakes, but they are just part of life. When you use casual English to handle them, you're showing that you're comfortable and confident in your second language. It's not just about the words. It's about the attitude you bring to the situation when things go wrong. If you're relaxed, the people around you will be relaxed too, which makes solving the actual problem so much easier for everyone.
Exactly. And it's also about having the right vocabulary to express that you've learned something from the mistake. You can say, "I see where I went wrong there. I'll make sure to double-check that part next time." It's a very positive way to end the conversation and move forward with more knowledge. It shows you're not just fixing the error, but preventing it from happening again, which is something every coworker and manager appreciates in a colleague.
Let's practice that forward-looking phrase because it's a great way to close a conversation after a fix. Tell me if you can say this. "I've got it now. I'll keep a closer eye on that detail in the future." It's perfect because it sounds natural and builds a sense of reliability for the next time you work together. You're building your reputation as someone who can handle challenges with grace and a really good attitude, which is worth so much.
We also need to mention the importance of tone of voice when you're delivering these casual phrases. If you sound too defensive or too upset, the casual words won't match your energy, which can feel a bit weird. Try to keep your voice neutral and friendly, even if you feel a little bit annoyed with yourself for the mistake. It helps to take a deep breath before you speak, so you can come across as calm and collected instead of flustered.
That's a great tip, and it's something we should always keep in mind when we are practicing our English speaking skills. The way we say things is often more important than the exact words we choose to use in the moment. When you say, "My bad, I'll fix that," with a smile or a calm voice, it sounds completely different than if you're mumbling. It's about owning the space and the conversation, even when you're the one who made the little error to begin with.
Let's think about a situation where you might have forgotten to invite someone to a meeting or a casual lunch. Instead of over-explaining, you can just say, "Oh man, I completely blanked on sending you that invite. I'm so sorry." Then immediately offer the details or a way for them to join in so they don't feel left out for long. It's a quick fix that acknowledges the social slip-up while making the other person feel included and valued by you.
I've definitely done that before, and I always feel a bit bad, but a quick apology goes a long way. People usually don't mind as long as they feel like it was an honest mistake and not a deliberate choice to exclude them. You can say, "I didn't mean to leave you out. I just had a lot on my plate and it slipped through the cracks." Using the expression "slip through the cracks" is a perfect way to describe those tiny things that get lost when life gets busy.
That's a great idiom to use in these situations because it feels very natural and doesn't blame anyone specifically. It just implies that the system or the process failed a little bit, which takes some of the pressure off yourself. Let's practice saying that together, slowly at first, and then a bit faster to match a normal speed. Repeat, "Sorry, I had a lot going on and that task just slipped through the cracks. It won't happen again."
It's also worth noting that you can use humor sometimes if the atmosphere is right and the mistake wasn't too serious. You could say, "I think my brain is still on vacation today. Sorry about that error on the report." Only do this if you know your coworkers well and you know they will find it funny rather than unprofessional. It can really break the ice and make a stressful situation feel a lot more manageable for you and the rest of the team.
I agree, but you have to be careful with humor depending on the culture of your specific workplace. In a more traditional environment, sticking to the straightforward, casual apologies is usually the safest bet for everyone. But in a creative or very relaxed office, a little joke can make you seem more approachable and human. Just gauge the temperature of the room and decide if a little bit of self-deprecating humor will help or hinder the situation you're in.
That's very wise advice, and it shows how important it is to listen and observe before you speak. Every workplace has its own unofficial rules about how much casual language is appropriate for different types of situations. By paying attention to how your native-speaking colleagues handle their own mistakes, you can pick up even more localized phrases. It's the best way to keep learning and evolving your English skills in a real-world professional environment that feels comfortable to you.
We've covered so many different scenarios today, from forgotten attachments to social slip-ups and even strategy mistakes. The common thread is always being honest, keeping it brief, and focusing on what happens next. When you do those three things, you'll find that people are incredibly forgiving and they will respect your honesty. It's a skill that will serve you well in any environment, whether you're at work, at a store, or with your neighbors.
I hope these phrases feel like tools you can use whenever you need them to feel more confident in your English. You don't have to be perfect to be a great communicator. You just have to be willing to try and to be yourselves. If you make a mistake, just take a breath, use one of our phrases, and keep moving forward with your day. You're doing a great job already just by showing up and learning these simple ways to connect with others.
Let's do one final practice of a few different phrases we learned today just to wrap everything up together. I'll read 3 of them, and I want you to repeat each one after me with a nice, natural rhythm and a friendly tone. First one, "My bad. I'll have that fixed in a second. Second one, sorry about the mix-up. Let me get that sorted for you. Third one, whoops, I must have missed that. Thanks for catching it.
Those were excellent, and I'm sure our listeners are feeling much more prepared for whatever happens at work this week. Remember that every mistake is just an opportunity to practice these natural English phrases and show off your personality. You've got the skills and the vocabulary now, so don't be afraid to put yourself out there and speak up. We are always cheering you on as you continue to grow and become more fluent in your everyday interactions with the world around you.
It's really been a fun episode today, exploring the more human side of working in an English-speaking environment. We love hearing about your experiences, so feel free to share any situations where you used these phrases successfully. Your stories help others feel less alone in their learning journey and give us all a good reason to keep practicing together. Keep building those connections and staying positive, because that's what real fluency is all about in the long run.
You're absolutely right. And we'll be here with more tips and natural phrases in our next episode to help you along. It's been a pleasure sharing these casual work-related English tips with you today, and we hope you found them useful. Don't worry about being perfect. Just focus on being clear and friendly with the people you work with every single day. See you next time for more natural English practice that you can use in your real life right away.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us today and working on your English skills together. If you enjoyed these tips, please remember to subscribe and like this episode for more natural practice.